Let's ask Adedayo Bakare, who is an investment officer at Afrinvest, is live to us from our studios at the Stock Exchange in downtown Lagos. What his thoughts are about some of these companies in the news. We're carrying them over from last week into the news week. This week. Good morning, Adedayo. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Bosin.
Yes, thank you, Adedayo. What are your thoughts about where we were coming from last week? Some of the stories that were in the headlines, and if you think they will be part of what you call a trading theme for this week, or whether it's going to be more of a let's just push this news aside and try to find some basis for pricing equities differently depending on investor sentiment.
Okay, I think the major story that happened last week was the Oando story with, the SEC story with Oando and the sanctions imposed on the company. But what we've seen on Friday, over the weekend, was SEC issued a clarification of the position, and this is because Oando instituted a suit against SEC at the High Court, upon which the ruling which was previously passed about the resignation of board members is currently on hold. So the clarification offered by SEC was just to say that they followed due process in the prosecution of the affected members of the Oando board, and that they actually gave the company fair hearing. Now, from our own views, we believe obviously the suspension of the the ruling by SEC gives or allows the company time, to be able to maybe respond to other issues as well. It allows for both parties to actually go back to the table and reach an amicable solution. SEC insists that it followed fair hearing, and Oando is saying they weren't given enough time to actually respond to the allegations. So we're going to see a bit of that play out, in the market this week. Although we saw, from the initial turbulence we saw last week, we saw a bit of calm. Now, for the general market, sentiment is currently very weak in the market. Last week, the market lost about 2.1%. We expect that bearish, performance will be sustained into the current week. Now, another story is relating, to the Forte Oil and the possible announcement of a CEO. You could see that also play out in the trading of the stock this week. We already know that Forte Oil has, divested from its upstream business, its Ghana business, and its power sector business to concentrate on, the downstream sector. And the downstream sector is not doing spectacularly well currently due to, government regulations. So we should see a bit of, that play out in the market as well as, the new roadmap for monetary policy over the next 5 years under Godwin Emefiele, as well as the Democracy Day we'll be having on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we're expecting that we'll get a bit more sense into what the presidency is thinking about over the 4 years regarding the economy and other matters.
Yes, if we stick a little bit with Oando's story, two of the non-executive directors handed in their resignation, and the company informed the market as appropriately should be on Friday. Do you think this will move the needle in terms of how sentiments are perceived about where all this is going? If two of the non-executive directors quit, will the market be thinking, will other directors also kick the door and say, look, we're leaving, thank you very much? Do you think this will be any trading bias for upside in terms of pricing or downside?
Okay, the conditions upon which informed the resignation is not public, so we can only speculate. For us, we believe, when you think in terms of what SEC wanted in terms of the sanctions, banning, the group chief executive officer and the deputy chief executive officer from holding positions for about 5 years. That obviously the fallout is going to affect, the leadership of the board. And based on the resignations we've seen so far, those are not high profile in that sense of the kind of resignations SEC envisaged. But currently we have a bit of a standoff between SEC and Oando, and it will be interesting to see how that plays out. The resignation we see, we do not think it will have a material impact on the direction of the company or investors' perception on the issue.
Okay, so how would you price in the Forte Oil? That's another company with a different issues entirely. If there's a major crossing, major shareholder, there's a new chairman, a new CEO. What's your take on this a bellwether within the oil and gas space?
Okay, for us and for I think most investors, the major thing is to look at the evolving business model of the company. Like I mentioned, initially the plan was to continue to expand its downstream business, given all the kinds of regulatory barrier affecting the downstream business. But what we've seen in the past 1 year or so is that the government, the company is redirecting its strategy. So the strategy now is to focus on downstream and divest from power and upstream oil and gas business. Now, for an investor or for us as analysts, what we want to look at is how this will impact the future performances of the company in terms of driving earnings, and also maybe in terms of growth expansion, and also in terms of maybe dividend payment. For us, the downstream space is a bit of a risky segment currently. We know NNPC continues to be the major importer of fuel. We know there's still subsidy. We know actually importing by all these independents and marketers is a bit difficult, and that affects their margins to an extent. So for us, we do not think, in the absence of removal of regulatory controls, the sector is not so bright. The downstream sector of the oil and gas company is not so bright. I believe that is what investors will want to focus on.
Adedayo, let's see what everyone will be focused on. Thank you very much. We appreciate your thoughts. We've got to take a break at this point. Thank you so much, Adedayo Bakare from Afrinvest. 2 minutes, we'll be right back.